Blog Talk Radio.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Welcome to Superhero Academy. I'm your host, Crossfire the Crusader. With me tonight on the air, I've already got ZETAMAN, our visiting professor for the week. Also joining us are the hero formerly known as Marshall Eagle, now known as Sonic Eagle. And I have three other callers. I have two callers from area code 712. Who have I got online here?
This is the Midnight Detective.
And the Grey Man. All right. And I've got area code 352. Hello? Area code 352. They just hung up on me. All right, everybody. Well, welcome everybody to Superhero Academy. We've had this is the show that almost never had. We've had a guest cancel. We've had things falling apart here. We're in the midst of a massive snowstorm, and I have relocated the Superhero Academy studios from my apartment to my place of business. I'm in a room up here at the hotel so that we will have internet and everything because the weather has just wreaked havoc on us. It has been sheer chaos. We are proud to have with us this week ZETAMAN. We're going to learn a little bit. I just want to start at the beginning with ZETAMAN and just kind of go through and just bask in his wisdom and his experience. I've got area code 352 back on the line. Let me see if I can get him in here. Area code 352, who have I got? He keeps cutting out, whoever it is. He's trying to Skype or something. I don't know. Well, ZETAMAN, I want to welcome you to Superhero Academy. This is kind of a first. I used to call in your show. Now you're calling in on mine. So
yeah.
Well,
thank you.
Fun.
Well, thank you very much for the invite. I haven't done a show in a while, so yeah, I'm kind of nervous actually.
Oh, don't be. The one thing we keep talking about on Superhero Academy is that everybody here has something they can teach, and everybody here has something they can learn. We are all students. We're all teachers, and we like to. I like to talk as little as possible and allow the guests to just share what they're about, what they're doing, what they've experienced, what they've learned, because it's something that we can learn from. And some of our previous guests, such as Silver Sentinel and Captain Australia last week, if you didn't catch that, guys, go back and download it. That was an awesome show. Also, the show with Pre-Song was another awesome show. So if you get a chance to go back and look at some of the previous episodes of Superhero Academy, there is some jewels in there, the people that I've been blessed to get on here. We've got some amazing people coming up, too. I'll go into that in the after show. But as we get started today, I want to, of course, take my usual step off into the drop zone. If you're not familiar with the drop zone, each week I hold myself accountable to my listeners and my allies here, and as far as my weight loss. And last week I entered the drop zone with my head bowed in shame. I had lost 0. I hadn't gained any, but I hadn't lost any. But this week has more than made up for it because I am down 5 more pounds for a total of 30 pounds since we started this show in November. So we're doing good.
Congratulations.
Don't ask me how I did it.
Good job.
Christmas week I just ate too much and went back on my regular stuff, and it just came off. Midnight Detective, weren't you going to be joining us in this?
Not yet. I'm not measuring in pounds yet. I'm measuring in inches lost off the waist.
All right. That's another good way to do it. Now, ZETAMAN, we're going ahead. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you. And I'd just like to know, I know you started out in Portland under the name The Cat, and eventually changed to ZETAMAN.
Yeah, after one night. After one night. Yeah, no, when I first started doing this, I started, lurking around the culture, and back then it was like the World Superhero Registry and stuff like that. So, I started lurking around June, July, and yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go as the Cat. That sounds like really, really cool. Not like the Bat or anything else. So, I started lurking around that way, and then I actually went out on patrol in a white cat mask, and I remember first night I got out to a parking garage on top of a building. I was going to take a picture for my MySpace. I'm like, all right, I'm really going to do this. This is really going to happen. So I walk out there and, I have my mask and, taking a picture. Lady gets up an elevator, opens the door. She saw me, and she just screams her head off, and she runs. I'm like, oh, my God. So I was like, oh, well, I don't know if this is going to work or not. But at least I got the terrifying criminal element part down. And then, and then a couple of bicyclist cops came up and approached me. I was like, what are you doing with that? And I, totally lied. I'm like, I'm doing this for a comic book. Yeah, here's my camera right here. I'm taking pictures for a comic book, posing, and I just want to get some reference material. And they're like, well, you can't run around with a mask on. So I was like, you know what? I don't feel like a Batman kind of guy anyway. I feel like a Superman kind of guy. So all night as I'm, patrolling the city without my mask, I was like, you know what? I need to come up with a better name. And I need to come up with something that's kind of snazzy and, that's not going to get me pulled over or anything else. So that's what I came up with. I was like, well, I really want to do something with Z, but, I can't, proclaim anything grandiose with Z. So I was just running off names, and that's where I came up with ZETAMAN.
I was wondering what the significance of ZETAMAN was. It just happened to sound good there, huh?
Yeah. Patrolling at night, walking around, taking pictures of stuff, and meeting people left and right. And I'm like, it's got to sound something kind of cool, something kind of like, I don't know, kind of like Mega Man-ish, kind of futuristic, kind of cool, little thing. So that's what it came up with. No other meaning other than spur of the moment.
Cool. Now, as you started out in this, I go back to when I started in this there's very few that are here, that are still here, that were there back then. The days of the old Heroes Coalition and the World Superhero Registry still being the premier thing. You had actually started a website, a message board, the Alternates, which is the precursor to the RLSH.net that we have today, and it was also your team. I got to watch some of the stuff you were doing as you were kind of learning the ropes, I guess. How did you actually get into doing the homeless thing? Is that just something you stumbled up on, or was it just something you already knew you wanted to work with?
Well, first, let me, I'll talk about, what happened was, I'm patrolling around, and, I was like, okay, we're patrolling for, crime and stuff, but, after a while, you're just sitting there, walking around, and you're like, well, I'm really not doing anything. I started looking at, Squeegee Man videos and stuff like that, so I thought, okay, well, I'll just start putting up some funny videos. Maybe that'll be entertaining, and at least it'll be fun and, give me something to do. But after a while, it's like, you go on your, 30th, 40th patrol, and you're like, I'm really not doing anything, and there's people on the street who need my help. Maybe I can do something that way instead. So I kind of changed gears that way, and, talking with some colleagues of mine, and they were kind of doing the same thing. It's like, well, we're all patrolling, but we're all just very much walking around, not doing anything. Maybe we need something a little bit more constructive to do with our time. So
I know it's been inspirational watching. I guess if I had to pick the two people in the RLSH movement, community, whatever you want to call it, that really impressed me the most, it's going to be between you and Thanatos, because y'all are.
Well,
just so much explosion.
Thanatos is a really, really great guy. Watching him do his stuff and stuff like that, he inspires me to go out and, be better at what I do. So I will have to say I draw a lot of inspiration from Thanatos, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Now, let's see where else I want to go with this. When we first talked about this, we wanted to talk about a lot of the stuff you had to overcome a lot in this journey. It has not been an easy journey for you. I know that. It seemed like, if I'm recalling right, you have formed your team, the Alternates, 3 times and disbanded it twice. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And right now it's, permanently disbanded. There's just too much bad feelings and bad hurts when it comes to that name. And I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to stop. I originally came up with the term the Alternates going back to the Hero Coalition, when the Hero Coalition were talking about doing fundraisers and hiring models to do car washes and stuff like that, and doing things like Drinking Against Injustice, having big, huge kegers to raise money for, like, DARPA and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what, that really doesn't sound as heroic. Let's hire a bunch of strippers and throw a big party. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to start my own thing. I'll call it the Alternates, as opposed to being alternate to the community. And it's kind of weird, like, for some reason, these things, like, I come up with always are like a big, kind of like a, thumb in the community's eye. But, yeah, that's what it was. So I came up with the term, the message board, the Alternates, and then I had a few people like, hey, let's start a team. So they're like, all right, we'll call the team the Alternates. And, originally it had, like, Civitron and, a couple other people that are no longer in the community anymore, or they just kind of quit, dropped off. And, all right, fine, I came up with that. And then after a while, I had a few friends in the area, so we were like, all right, let's call it the Alternates again. And then half of them turned out to have, like, some severe, well, actually, most of them turned out to have some really severe and life problems that hindered them from being actual, nice people. So then kind of just abandoned it that way, and then I started out ground up again. And then, now it's just like, you know what, this is not working for me. Even though I'm a weirdo in a costume, I still attract weirdos in costumes too. So, it's very hard to do things when everybody's weirdo and everybody is an emotional wreck, and we're not getting anything done. So.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's been kind of interesting to watch. Now, just like I said, I'll just open this up to you now. Tell us a little bit about your journey, the ups and downs that you've had to get you to where you're at today. Anything you're willing to share, you don't have to go out into any details you don't want to. But just kind of share with some of these, especially the new people that are listening. Since you decided to don your spandex and cape in theory here and come out of the phone booth, what has life been like for ZETAMAN?
Well, I think what's more important. It's weird because, I understand, your show and stuff like that, but, and, a lot of people don't like when you use this as an example, but really, it's in a really bizarre way. It's like coming out of the closet, like you said, you're coming out in spandex. You're really, I'm not saying that we're all superheroes and everything else, and, there's some kind of weird thing going on, but it is kind of not of a normal thing. And it's, I will say that, the only reason why I'm able to do things or keep going on is that I do have a great family, and my brothers and, their family has been very, very supportive of me. I have friends who are just so supportive of me and believe in what I do, that I can't stop, because I don't want to disappoint my family and my friends. They believe in me, and it makes me feel good about that, and I want to keep going, do better and better and better, because I want to, I want to obviously do something with my life and do something creative, and that's like creative and, totally bizarre and outside the box, but, I have a very supportive family, and it's great. And I think it's important. Yeah, and I think it's important. Obviously, people are going to look at this and be like, I need to be just like Batman. I need to just be like Superman. But when you actually start doing things in real life, you find that you need the support of your family and friends to help you, keep you going, even come up with ideas that you never even thought of yourself. We're also in us RLSH who are in the community and everything else, we're so used to getting our reference material from comic books, which is like not where you're supposed to be getting your reference material. You start talking to your friends, you start talking to your family, you may find they have more ideas on how to do things, how to get things done than you may have yourself. And, you know, drawing from their words and drawing from their ideas will make you that much more effective. Like, you know?
Oh, definitely. You got to think outside the box sometimes there, and then you know we get trapped into that little routine of I want to be Superman, I want to be Batman. You know, just ain't gonna happen. You know, it's really not realistic. A lot of the stuff you read in comic books because it is fantasy / fiction / science fiction, whatever you want to call it. We use the imagery of a superhero to either A, draw attention to ourselves, B, have a little bit of fun, or C, draw attention to a cause, you know. But anybody that really thinks you can put on a cape and fly, you know, just let me get my camera first. Because I'm going to want to get a picture of this, you know. It's going to be fun. But,
the one thing I do regret most of all, though, is that I do solidly believe in the RLSH community concept and everything else. And I have invested a lot of my life into it. And I think things like that I regret because I have opened myself up. And, you know, the reason why I started opening myself up because I believe that if someone can draw any kind of life lesson from my example and make them that much of a better person, then, you know, it'd be worth it for me to open up my life. And I think by opening up my life a lot more to a lot of people, especially to strangers, you know, has bite me in the butt more times than I care to, you know, admit. And sometimes it is hard. So I think, you know, you really have to consider how much of yourself to invest out in the public, you know. And I think, you know, I don't think necessarily has to do with mask and no mask, you know. I think it doesn't really matter if you wear a mask or not, you know. You know, it doesn't matter. People are not going to research you that way. But investing in, you know, trying to make friends and trying to invest in people based on personal experience, you have to really use wisdom and intelligence and judgment when you do that, you know. And I think that's the one thing I think anybody who's listening to, you know, it's okay to invest in friends in the community and stuff like that, but you need to consider your words or what you want to share to the group very carefully because there are people out there who, you know, I think, you know, who like to hurt you and they want to hurt you. Or if you're in an argument or debating an issue, they use your personal experience as leverage point, and sometimes things like that really do hurt. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. There are people that will take every opportunity to either shame you or insult you or just, you know, gossip, whatever, tear you down, or they may go so far as to actually invade your personal life. Now my business site, because I had people who would snake my phone number and call me at home about RLSH stuff, and it's like, you know, no. That's crossing the line. If I want you to have the number, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, no, and I don't think it has necessarily to do with like some of the internet stuff. Some of the internet stuff is okay. I'm talking, you know, but in real life, you know, it's very hard. You know, if I had a couple of articles that came out and like my life issues were right there, and when I asked the author, like, why are you saying this? Why are you saying this out loud? They're like, well, you know, we have to present your entire life to the public because they have a right to know. And like, they have a right to know about medical history. They have a right to know about all this. And like, you know, if we're writing this article, you can either join in or, you know, you can approve this or not. We're going to run it regardless of that. And, you know, things like that get kind of hard. Your life stories out there in the public, and you have to pretty much embrace it and be like, yeah, this is my life, you know, good or bad, and you know, then you're completely open, you know. And you know, like you, Crossfire, I had people call me and harass me and stuff like that. You know, I don't, you know, sometimes I forget to sign on to a security thing or whatnot, and then people take advantage of that and call me up, or you know, they go out and try to lurk around my property where I live and stuff like that. And you know, it's kind of difficult things like that too. So.
Oh yeah. Well, everybody, we got quite a few people in the chat room. I want to go on ahead and share the number. If anybody has a question they'd like to ask ZETAMAN as we go on with this, our call-in number is 917-889-3317. That's 917-889-3317 for Superhero Academy. Our visiting professor tonight is the amazing ZETAMAN. Dun, dun, dun. He is telling us about everything from the days of the cat through the alternates through the more recent years in the Heroes, RLSH.org, and the other stuff that he's got going on to benefit our community. ZETAMAN, be honest, you've just been outstanding, the things you have done for this community to kind of improve it. Just in the past, I guess, past year, you've been doing the real RLSH.org, which, of course, came from the old Alternates board, and that you have tried to become and I think they're becoming the premier site that people look to when they're looking for real-life superheroes instead of the World Superhero Registry.
Well, we
the process of bringing all that about. I'm sure that's been a migraine.
Well, it hasn't been a migraine. It's been actually, well, you know what? It's not migraine. It actually is not. It's like a labor of love. And, a few of us got together, and, we were looking at stuff online, and we were looking at how it was referenced and how it was being referenced. And I was like, this is really messed up. Why are we being associated with, with, number one, a site that no one cared about, like the World Superhero Registry. In its time, it was very helpful. It did bring the community together. But it was becoming more and more outdated, even from a program standpoint up to even a reference material standpoint. And it was like this is becoming horrible. This is almost embarrassing for us. People are spoofing this site, believing that this is what represents us. We need to come up with something better, something more definitive, something that actually references and things like that. So it started off with, me, Dark Guardian, Citizen Prime, Agent Null, Phantom Zero, and we just started compiling information, started, researching, and started, come up with, a good term that also can, empower people to feel like they can be a part of the culture, but at the same time states, hey, you know what, we're more than just, we have ideas, we have thoughts that are relevant. We're not just some site that made from 1996. We're just going to keep trying to constantly update, constantly research, collect news articles, collect galleries, collect information. So that way, at the end of the day, this group, this weird, bizarre costume group exists. Here's a site about them at one point in time in history where this weird culture existed. So kind of like a time capsule kind of thing. Yeah.
I know in like you, I've been here since the days of the Hero Coalition. I had completely forgot about the get drunk for superhero thing. I remember that.
Yeah, that was really bizarre. Looking back on it now, I'm sure it sounds kind of fun, but our community, our culture is a lot bigger. So something like that, I'm sure, can totally exist. But, back then, we had, 50 people, and they're talking about let's create a fundraiser where we hire models and strippers and get drunk and dress as superheroes. I'm like, that's not,
The other extreme back then that I remember was the people that talked about I could take a super soaker and fill it with lighter fluid and make a flamethrower out of it.
Yeah.
I was like, I think that's a good idea.
That's got bad idea written all over it.
I know.
Yeah, there's the first line of a 911 call. It was just...
Well, and what was weird too is because no one had examples of how this stuff worked, so people were just taking it at face value that that's totally acceptable to do. And that was the other part of the culture back then too, is that people said whatever theory they want, and other people took for face value. And when we started thinking about reallifesuperheroes.org, it's like, you know what? Let's get some commentary up there. Let's get some statements. Let's get some tutorials. Let's get some things based on actual experience. One of the things, the biggest thing in this culture, everybody immediately thinks about is grappling hooks. Let's go out and let's get a bunch of grappling hooks and let's start repelling off a building, which is fun to think about and fun to probably do. But if you're repelling off of a 20-story building, you're not going to get to the crime pretty, fast as you think. Or, it's like, come on, seriously, And back then, though, you can say anything, like the super soaker with lighter fluid, or what was another one? Creating a cape that becomes a hang glider.
I remember that one too.
Yeah, or God, there was like so many just like,
all kind of stuff. I even remember somebody talking about getting like a weather balloon and filling it with helium, and making like a one-person balloon that they could fly around in.
Yeah, just some bizarre stuff, but
Oh, it's seriously, it's like they're like, I wonder if my head would fit in there, It's just, and it was crazy the stuff that they were coming up with back then. And the majority of these that were coming up with this stuff, they're not with us today. Hopefully by choice and not by accident, because there was some serious potential for some risky 911 situations with some of the stuff that was coming out back then. Well, I remember discussing with Silver Sentinel that if you look back at the people that were on the Heroes Coalition board, there was like you and myself and Amazonia and Topian and Superhero and Master Legend, and that was the same ones in that board.
Well, and another one, the biggest one we really had to fight against was smuggling, actually downloading plans to make bombs to torch meth houses. That was another big one. It started back when the Earth Agent thing was going on, and legitimate happened. A group of guys back in the 50s actually went through in LA and torched a drug house and took off with the money, and they all went their separate ways. I doubt that, that cold case is going to pop out right now. I'm sure I might get a nice little email about it. But, yeah, that's how the Earth Agents came about. They torched a drug house. The members of that, all old World War II vets, and, all Vietnam vets, took off with the drug money and moved their separate ways. And that's how Earth Agent Superman came about. He ended up moving to a different part of the country for a while, and his other friends went off, and they ended up spending the money and stuff like that. So that idea of torching drug houses and downloading bomb plans and stuff like that was going on back on the world, the Hero Coalition, stuff like that. In fact, some time ago, an RLSH up in Washington gave plans on how to make a bomb to a miner out in Boise, and who were part of the Boise Brigade. That kid got in trouble, and they were looking for that RLSH in Tacoma, So
I haven't even heard that one.
Really scary stuff. It's like, oh my God, you guys need to rein your crazy in. You're talking about bombs now in post 9/11, and you're doing this on a message board. I mean, instant fail. Number one. Number two, you deserve to be in jail. And number three, that really is not superheroic at all. I mean, I've never read a Batman comic book where Batman is downloading the anarchist manual to sit there to figure out how he's going to torch down, the Penguin's next drug house. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Of course, if you watch the movies, you always get a button that drops a bomb in just the right place, or machine guns pop out, and it's like, you won't fight with guns, but he's got them attached to his plane and his car and his helicopter and his boat like crazy.
Yeah, but that stuff existed. So the Hero Coalition eventually turned into like the Heroes Network, where it was just kind of like this underground, really bad, discussing some really illegal things. And then you had the Ultimates Forum, which turned into the World Heroics Forum, which my intention was to demonstrate the positive, to have a forum where you have the positives of going on spandex and trying to do good in the world, whereas you had the Heroes Network created by Totian, which was, hey, let's sit here and we're going to talk about how to create disposable swords so you can stab people and then burn the evidence and walk away.
Yeah.
And, eventually, the world...
When it was, I guess it's still up, it's like you got people like Angle Grinder Man.
Yeah.
It's like, he's cutting the boots off of a car, and that's challenging the legal authority. To me, he sounded more like a supervillain than a superhero.
Well, with with Angle Grinder Man, what the issue with him is he's fighting a moral injustice as opposed to just doing something illegal. So he is a really interesting guy to figure out, because it is morally, what they're doing with the boots is totally morally wrong. You know? So, I mean, he's a vigilante, yeah, but it's a moral injustice as opposed to, you know, hey, I'm going to go to slash a drug dealer's tires just to screw with his day. You know, that's kind of like, well, no, dude, why don't you just report his car or get pictures of him running the drugs, submit that in the police if the guy gets busted. You know, why don't you do some detective work as opposed to venting because you can't stop this guy you don't know how to stop this guy any other way. But, so we had the world. What's that?
Well, we're talking about the actual stop of the crime or anything like it. You talk to Thanatos, you hear a lot of his stuff that he's done on the street as far as the homeless people, and there's just awesome stories there. But then occasionally you get the person that he encounters that is breaking the law, that wants to get rough or whatever like that. In your travels as ZETAMAN, have you come across any situations where you actually had to come to blows or stop something that was happening? There's a couple times I've actually had to rustle a few ornery people who were drunk and they were just picking fights. That's somewhat interesting. I think the most it's kind of weird. The most brutal fight I tried to break up was a fight between two women who were fighting over a man, over a guy. It was like downtown Portland, 4:00 in the morning. Literally, they were scratching each other. They were like, they're scratching their faces. There's blood dripping down. And I'm sitting there trying to break it up. I'm like, ladies, come on, stop. And, with guys, when you try to break up a fight, there's a point where you could talk to them and have them both sit down and reason out. Women, no way. They were just going to town on each other. They were like fighting right through me. And, I got a few hit knocks in the head, too. I'm like, oh, my God, and the police came and broke them up and everything else. But I think, honestly, that was probably the most brutal fight I've ever been in. I know that's kind of weak, but, oh, man, that was pretty No. The worst incident I ever had been in doing security was when I worked at a hospital in Little Rock, and I got called to the psychiatric ward, and a little 98-pound woman whooped the snot out of 7 of us. And it was a whooping. If she's listening right now, I'm not saying any different, because I don't want her to hear that I said I won that fight. If she walks through the door, I'm going out the window. This woman just tore us to pieces. I ended up going to the ER. It was insane. She was throwing people. She was throwing furniture. We got her down. It's like, just stick her with something. You knock this chick out. But it took 7 of us finally to hold her down, and 3 of us end up in the ER.
Yeah, man, women just don't care.
Not have weighed 100 pounds.
But yeah, no, I've had the closest I ever had was a knife, and I've had a knife and a gardening tool pulled on me, and that's pretty much it. And usually you can talk people down. You're like, hey, listen, dude, you pull that out. There's a police officer right over there, and I have I will not hesitate until you get, to make sure you get thrown behind bars. Oh, all right, man, I just, it's fine. I was like, all right, what, calm down. Sit here. We're going to sit here and talk about what's bothering you. What's going on? And we'll sit down, we'll talk, we'll have, we'll sit down and, we'll start talking about weird things. I think that the other part initially, too, what was interesting about wearing the costume is when you're walking around, you meet someone on the street, instant icebreaker. Hey, man, what are you wearing those boots for? Hey, yeah, I got these boots off the line. And you sit there and you start talking to people. And, you talk to people on the street. You talk to somebody sleeping on the street. Hey, man, what's with the boots? Hey, no problem. My boots, I'm here. And you sit there and you have a conversation with people. You get their names. You exchange names. You exchange email addresses and whatnot. So, you talk to people, and people want to know what you're about, and then you outreach to them that way. You start talking to them, get their life story, and at the end you made a new friend,
Oh, definitely. Now, as I look back over the career of ZETAMAN, of course you got your ZETAMAN TV, Adventures of ZETAMAN TV. I love those shows. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but you have probably more pet causes than anybody I know. It seems like you've always got some sort of whether it's the March of Dimes or something other. How many different charities do you stay in touch with and do things for?
You know what? Honestly, it's just probably about 2.
Really?
Literally, it's just two. It's March for Babies and Race for the Cure, and even then, it's just walkathons and stuff like that too. But this year I'm just going to try something different. Me and ZETAMAN, we are doing our Heroic 100 passage, whatever. And so, we're both working on our own individual statewide nonprofits in the same vein as Team Justice. Team Justice being the first nonprofit, and then we thought, you know what, I can do that. If Superhero can do it, I can do it. So we both are putting together our own nonprofits, which hopefully by the end of this year or something like that, we'll both have our own statewide Heroic 100 nonprofit. So
that's awesome. Actually, ZETAMAN's going to be coming on here in 2 weeks to talk about the Heroic 100.
Yeah.
That's something that was confirmed just in the past week, and I'm looking forward to that. So, and of course, what he told me, he said it was almost dead till ZETAMAN got on the bandwagon there. So, breathe some life into that.
Yeah. So, I'll leave all that stuff to Sibby. He knows how to, he'll talk about the Heroic 100 because he is the Heroic 100 guy. So, yeah.
Definitely. I remember you did if I'm remembering this right, I hope this was not a Master Legend charity instead of your. Wasn't there something you were doing to create public restrooms in areas where the homeless were?
In 2008, we did a concert, and the ending thing was, have a night with ZETAMAN. Go out on a date with ZETAMAN. And we had an auction to auction me off for a night so people will go on a date with me. And that date would require, we were going to go down and give some stuff out to homeless people. I think we were going to do miniature golf and, then go out to dinner, and then we go out and patrol Portland. But we raised money for the Portland Rescue Mission to have accessible bathrooms for the homeless people. So there's a 24-hour, so the Portland Rescue Mission, you go down, the bathroom's open 24 hours a day. You can go down, go there, shave, use the facilities, do whatever you need to do, and you can go, And there's not a lot of public 24-hour bathrooms downtown, and you don't think about it, but if you're on the street, where are you going to go, And it's hard, where are you going to go in the middle of the night when you really have to go? You have no toilet paper, you have nowhere else to go, you're going to squat in a bush. I mean, that's like inhumane. So we did it with the Portland Rescue Mission, an organization out here called Flush, PHLUSH, public hygiene, I forgot what the acronym is. But it's really a wonderful organization that is dedicated to restore, humanity in people by allowing them the common decency to use facilities, And you don't think about it, but yeah, it's a very demoralizing an inhumane thing to not have facilities for people on the street.
Well, you talked about that. You brought something to mind there. This past week, we've had an example of nationwide attention has been brought to an individual who was on the street and got his one break to get him off the street and back on his feet here. This gentleman, Ted Williams. Most people don't realize how short the distance is between living a successful, self-sufficient life and being completely homeless and on the street. One bad mistake or one break, could be the difference between you sleeping in an alley and sleeping in a bed. And I thought this past week, it's just been really neat watching him focus on this one gentleman. Of course, my thoughts are, why are we focusing on just the one? There's so many more that could use some help. How do we help them also? But
well, and it's tough because you can only really much you can't help everybody and you can't save everybody. So one of the hardest things to come to the conclusion when you're starting to do this is that you can't save the world, you can't help everybody, and you have to pick and choose your battles. And you really do have to pick and choose what you can do and what you can't do because one, you don't want to create a false sense of hope that you can do something and you really can't. And number two, you want to actually succeed in something. So sometimes you really do have to pick and choose what battles and what things you are going to do. And I think in the particular case, helping one individual is a very heroic thing. You help one individual successfully and effectively, as opposed to helping 10 people ineffectively and unsuccessfully, you know?
Definitely.
I mean, you mess up 10 people, but if you're, but if you save one person, I mean, I don't know. You really do have to pick your battles really, really closely, and it's very hard to do that because everybody wants to help as much as they can, but you have to figure out what is going to be a good use of my time, what's going to be the most effective use of my time, and it's hard to come to that conclusion that, you know what, I'm not going to be able to help this person that night, and I can't. There's nothing I can do to help that person or save that person or anything else, but here's someone else I can help, or I can help out, or be a better resource to them, and it's hard.
I can imagine, I have not done near as much beyond hero support that I'd like to do. I have done, one night I was able to do some Oracle work on my place of employment, and helping out actually somebody up in your area when they were trying to find Skyman. There had some recent incidents and some research and stuff like that for some other people, and just more or less background, sidekick kind of stuff, and a little bit of charity work. Most of my adventures have taken place out of costume, and in some cases in very little costume. In my most recent incident, the Silver Sentinel doesn't let me forget about me stopping a murder in my Beowulf costume,
That was really, really cool. That was really, really cool read to read, by the way.
It was, to me, it's like, it was exciting that it happened, but I didn't think anything about it. It had to be done. And I made sure all the vital organs were covered, and grabbed the stick and went over there and did what had to be done. And it's nothing different in the long run than what I did when I ran the motel, and I'd have some crackhead up there fighting his girlfriend in the hotel room, and I had to throw him out or something like that. And it was only different in the fact that if I had been 10 minutes later, it would have been a whole different crime scene. But yeah.
But no, but at the end of the day, and the one thing that never gets printed, and it should get printed, and I don't know, and I think one of the things I think a lot of people realize, at the end of the day when I do my patrols and stuff like that, at the end of the day, I have never felt like the big hero one. I have never felt successful. I have never felt like I have done something and it's mission accomplished. Every time I walk away from patrol, every time I do a charity auction, every time I do anything, I walk away always wondering, what could I have done more? What could I have done different? What could I have done to make a better difference? And I have never, and it's hard, I have never walked away once at anything thinking that I've been the big hero. And it's hard. And I think a lot of people, when they start patrolling, they realize that if you are congratulating yourself and you're self-gratifying yourself that way, saying, I did this and I was successful in this, you've lost touch with the purpose of what you're doing, and you really have lost touch with who you're helping. And I feel, and every time I patrol and stuff like that, it's always like this humbling experience, and I always walk away being like, what could I have done more? What could I have done differently? How could I have helped better? What could I have done to do something better than what I could have done? And the only thing I can think of is, at the end of the day, I was at least there to listen, and I don't know what else I can do, but, hopefully through the grace of God, maybe being there at that one day might have done something in the grand scheme of things, because I don't see the big scheme. I don't see the big picture. I don't know what the big picture is. And hopefully maybe through some kind of faith, maybe something else might happen down the line that I'm not aware about, You
have to remember the victories that you don't know that you won.
Yeah.
I know Silver Sentinel, he's one of his things that he says is being a real-life superhero is not about the things that you do, but the people that you do them for. And I think that's a powerful statement. And you say, you're actually going out and doing all this, and you're putting 110% into it, I have no doubt. Just what I know of you over the years, that you're giving everything you can and then some, but you walk away wishing you could do more. And that's the difference in ZETAMAN and, say, Captain Flubber that comes along and wants to go out there and make the news article and drive around at night in his black car and fight crime, and thinks he's going to be swinging on the grappling hook and rope, like Batman in the old cartoons, not realizing that the human body cannot physically move in the position that Batman does when he's swinging around the ropes and stuff in the comics.
Superhero has a really good phrase for that. Content you went. I think that's a really good way of saying it too.
Exactly.
I disagree with that statement 100%.
Okay.
And the reason why I say you're content to that you went is because you're resolved. You're settling for the fact that what you did was okay. And I don't believe in settling. I don't believe in settling what you did is just what you're going to do and what you always do. I think you should always strive to want to do more, to figure out how to be better, how to be more effective, how to be more than what you did the night before. I like Superhero. I think he's a great guy. I do not believe in that statement whatsoever. I mean, I don't mean to put a downer on it, but yeah, no, I think being content that you went means that you are settling what you did was good enough and you can walk away. I think you should always have the mindset, how can I be better? How can I improve? How can I strive to be better? What can I do to make a better difference? I think you should always strive for excellence, and to be better and to do better and to want to be better. And next time you go out, be more effective, be stronger, be more attentive, be more listening, get names, get, who's on the street, get their emails, get their Facebook, invest in these people, have them invest in your life, strive to be better. Don't be content, strive to keep going and to be better next time.
I definitely agree with that. We should always be looking for the next thing that we can do to make things better. How much more can we add to what we're already doing? If you get complacent, you could still be doing good, but you get complacent at that level of good when you could actually be doing, for lack of a better word, gooder or better.
Cover it.
Well, yeah, see, and, Superhero, it's kind of weird that Superhero would say that, but he actually has become an oxymoron in that way because he created a nonprofit Team Justice. He's out there collecting donations, so now his supply, his reserve for supplies can become unlimited, so he's that much more effective. So he's not, even Superhero's not content on his own. He's always strive for a better, the next Team Justice thing is going to be better. The next Team Justice event is always going to be better. It's going to be better, it's going to be better, it's going to be better. So that statement, even coming from Superhero, is incorrect because Superhero himself, through Team Justice, is moving on bigger, better, harder, faster, stronger, more effective. So it's kind of weird that he said that too, considering all the stuff that he does.
What I've seen of when he has mentioned "Be Content You Went" on the forums is about the patrols only. You went out, you patrolled, nothing happened, but at least you patrolled.
Definitely.
Be content that you went out there and patrolled.
I think.
Let me interrupt here for a minute. We got about 11 minutes. I want to go ahead and give the number in case anybody else wants to call in at 917-889-3317, and we will be going over into an after show just a little bit because I want to cover some of the upcoming stuff and just tease the next week. But if ZETAMAN and the rest want to stay online, we can continue this conversation as long as we need to because it is very fascinating and very much enjoy talking with Zeta on this. I guess having some blog talk experience, you're very comfortable with this also, so it shows. But I want to, while we're still broadcasting live, of course, tease my pet cause that I'm on right now. Those of you who are listening that have not heard this already, I want to talk about Heart Heroes and Power Capes. We are in the process of doing a cape drive for Heart Heroes. What Heart Heroes is they provide a gift card to these children that have congenital heart disease, where they can go onto the website at Power Capes and order a custom-made superhero cape. And this custom-made superhero cape helps them to find their inner hero so they can stand up against this enemy they're facing in congestive heart disease. The lady that formed the group was talking about her son when she was on the air a few weeks ago, who's 3 years old and has already had 3 open heart surgeries, and he will not go to the doctor without his cape because he has to be ready. He has to be the hero to stand against this enemy. and the strength these kids get out of something as simple as a superhero cape around their neck is amazing. It costs about $25 to construct and ship the cape, and at the time that we did the show with the Heart Heroes, they were 200 kids on the waiting list. And basing on the first year that they were in, we estimate they'll have another 400 before the end of the year that they're going to need. And we are asking everybody that can to donate 1, 10, 12, however many capes you can afford over the next year, to try and meet their goal of 600 that we estimate. So if you have a chance to, you can go to the blog for Superhero Academy, and the link is on there, or of course I link to it on Facebook a lot, and on the RLSH.net. But just follow that link. You can donate $25, and they'll send that card to a kid that needs it, and get them into a cape and help them find their inner hero. I've got 2 more callers. Area code 305. You're on Superhero Academy.
Hey guys, it's Night Owl.
Hey, Night Owl. Good to have you. And I've got area code 111. I think I know who this is.
Hello?
Hello, area code 111.
Yeah, this is Versus.
Versus. Oh, hey.
Hey.
Good to have you here.
Hey, thanks. I heard y'all going to After Dark. I just didn't want to miss it.
It's an after show here. We don't do After Dark. That's a whole different thing. ZETAMAN, I want to thank you again before we get to the end of the show. We got about 8 minutes here. It has been awesome having you in here. The experience that you've had out there doing what you do is just invaluable to some of the people that are starting out new, and some of the ones that have not actually done patrolling or anything like that. A lot can be learned, and you know, it's one thing for a superhero or a master legend to talk about out there on the street fighting crime, or because they're not built like real people like me and you. But ZETAMAN, you've been out there, and I laugh when I can't remember who it was that described you as a little Mega Man. But
well, it has been a pleasure to be on, and I thank you very much for inviting me. I mean, this has been fun.
Oh yes, definitely. You're welcome to come back again, even with other future guests coming up. And like I said, we're going to stay on the line. I was kind of hoping Silver Sentinel would make the call in, but he's been working some doubles here lately, so he may not make the call today. So we probably won't have a Silver Seal segment this week. And I was kind of hoping Skyman would call in and give us his. We haven't had his report in the drop zone for a while, but I'll get that from him later. He's been busy with some other stuff going on too, also. So y'all pick this up later. Just know that we missed you. I want to thank everybody that's been in the chat room. We have Boundless, of course, Night Owl, Lord Malignant, Aviator, also Amazonia was in there, and I'm going to miss some. There were so many people in and out of that chat room. It has been a party in there today. Levion, of course, was in there. And as we move into the after show, I'll start the music there here in a few minutes. We'll go off into that, and then we can just continue if anybody has any questions they want to ask ZETAMAN and stuff like that. And then we will tease the upcoming shows, because I've got some surprises in store for my listeners. Some people that are going to be coming on in the next few weeks that are just going to be a lot of fun for us. So that number, if you want to call in, is 917-889-3317. I can probably get 1 or 2 more people online here for the after show. Now, ZETAMAN, how many years have you been doing this?
Oh, God, I don't know. Since 2006.
2006. So that's 4 years.
4 or 5 years, yeah.
What's the most interesting person you have met while out there on patrol?
Most interesting. Like here in Portland? Yeah, here in Portland, or like in general, like forever?
In general, and I'm expecting you to say Blue Blaze, to be honest with you.
No, Neural Cybex actually was a very interesting individual. I remember we were sitting there after patrol, and he wanted to jump between buildings. And by then, he's been like doing like weird stuff, and we were just tired of it. And we're like, oh my God, you know what, dude? Go for it. Jump between buildings. We'll record this all. When you fall to your death, we'll record it for YouTube and let people know, don't do this. So he climbs up the side of the building. He's climbing up this, side fire escape, and then he gets halfway up, and a guy opens with his head. He looks at him, and Nero looks at him back, and the guy shakes his head no. So Nero comes back down. He's like one story below, just ready to jump off. And he's like, hey, guys, check this out. Check out my SIP jump. And we're like, what are you talking about? I have a SIP jump. I'm going to jump really, really slow. Watch this. And we're like, all right, let's get this going. So he, jumps, and he jumps at normal speed. He's like, did you see that, guys? It's so slow. It's so epic. It's my SIP jump. And I'm like, you jump normally. What the heck? And then the next day we did March for Babies, and, he got into we're walking, and he got into he went to a booth, and he got, a whole bunch of soy blocks. And he didn't like the soy. So what he started doing, he gathered a whole bunch of boxes of soy, and he starts chucking them out in the air. And so the soy goes up in the air, but it's coming down and hitting people left and right. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You're throwing soy at people. I don't like it, so I'm disposing of it. No. Drop the soy, forget it, So, he was interesting. There's so many other bizarro things. He nearly killed us one night, trying to set a gas man on fire.
Gas man, wasn't it?
Yeah, trying to set the gas man on fire with a taser because he wanted to create a flamethrower, so that way if any villains come our way, he'll have a flamethrower to toast them. I'm like, dude, this is a bar. There's 60 people here. You're going to kill us all. So we literally sat him in a corner, I don't know, we literally put a chair up in a corner. He had to sit there, for the rest of the night.
But even time out.
Yeah, he had a timeout. We gave him a timeout.
Oh, man, that's funny.
Yeah.
Isn't he from Ice Planet Hoth as well?
Oh my God, yeah, He saw the ZETAMAN TV, talk about the stratification of mankind. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Depending on your look, and I don't know why I know this, but I guess I know this because I'm bizarre too. Depending on where you're located to the equator, is what grade of human you are. So the closer you are to the equator, the lower a grade of human you are. So if you're at the equator, you're F grade. But the closer you are to Bering, Alaska, if you're in Alaska, you're A grade human. And if you walk 20 miles east of Bering, Alaska, then you get teleported to the planet Hoth. And that's when you know you are truly an A grade human. I was like, what?
That's crazy.
Why am he's like, you guys in Oregon, Washington, you guys are C grade. There's no way you can get to Hoth. And I don't know. Part of me was like, I want to go to Hoth. How come I can't be an A grade human? How come you get to be an A grade human because you're walking around belly first in the snow, and I get to be a C grade? What, do I have to be on the ground absorbing loci energy too when it's snowing outside? I mean, come on. So yeah, as a C grade human because we were closer to the equator than being in Alaska.
Oh, that's crazy. Hey, we got about 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and do our closing out theme here. I'd like to close the show with this song. As soon as that's over, we'll continue this, and I'll go ahead and share the teaser for some of the upcoming shows.
We're men in light. We roam around the whole for light. We're men in time. We run from the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like cities, but what would you say, or else we'll put out your life? We're men in light. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. La 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 la. The rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like candy, but don't get us wrong or else we'll put out your life. We're men in tight, tight. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. When you're in a fix, we'll come for the men in time. We're bunch.
All right, I must have started a little early, but guys, we got some interesting shows coming up in the next few weeks. with some things that we've scheduled out. We got 3 more shows before we have to go to a 30-minute format. Blog Talk Radio is changing us over to the free shows are going to be 30 minutes, and so this is we're winding down on the shows that we have left under this. We do have 3 more shows available, and those 3 shows we're going to have next week. Midnight Detective and I will be celebrating Martin Luther King Day and talking about the work of Martin Luther King Jr. The next week we have Peter Tangent is going to be on, and we'll be talking about the Real Life Superhero Project and the film project he has going right now. And then the following week, our last 1-hour show is going to be Civatron, and we'll talk about the Heroic 100. Coming up in February, we have Captain Black on February 6th, and we're going to be celebrating Rosa Parks' birthday. On February 13th, we have Golden Valkyrie, and we're going to talk about the real St. Valentine, much like we did at Christmas with St. Nicholas. Not quite as a flamboyant character there as we had at Christmas, but it's definitely going to be an interesting show. Then on the 20th, we have Lunar Veil, and we're going to be doing Animal Rescue. Haven't decided on the 27th yet, and if we don't fill anything up there, we may go into the old blog about the 5 movies that every RLSH should see. And then on March 6th, one that I am very, very, very excited about, people, we have an amazing guest from the show, Who Wants to Be a Superhero? We're going to be interviewing Creature. Anybody remember her?
Yeah, nice.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun. She's going to be talking about she's been working with elephants in Asia. She has got so much stuff, so many irons in the fire. She must be triplets, I swear. It's going to be an amazing, amazing show. The very next week, March 13th, is Kitty Genevieve's Day, and Amazonia will be helping me with that show. And the following week is St. Patrick's Day, so we'll do another show on St. Patrick and take a look at what he brought to the table as an example. So for the next few weeks, we've got some interesting topics, interesting shows, and some good co-hosts coming in here, visiting professors. So a lot going to be happening. I'm really excited about getting Tanya Kay in here and Creature about that show. I could not. I was stunned when she actually got back and said she'd be able to do it. She's excited about that. So getting back to our current topic, ZETAMAN. Originally, you started the Blog Talk Radio show yourself, didn't you? You used to have?
Well, I actually did that. It was called the Ultimates Radio Show, but actually it was Prime and Dark Guardian who were starting their shows up. Prime initially did his, and then Dark Guardian did his, and then he did a political show for a while too. So, and they quit. After a while they were like, we're not doing this anymore. So it'd be kind of cool to do that too. So so then I jumped on. We did the Ultimates Radio Show, and then I had Pockets Meow as the host, and and then it evolved from the Ultimates Radio Show to Meow and Friends because I felt that it was really her show, and so we did Meow and Friends, and that's how Meow and Friends came about.
Yeah, no, that was for the longest time I didn't listen to the Blog Talk shows, and I picked over and quickly got hooked on Meow and Friends and Creature Feature back when Executrix had it, because they were like the same show almost in some ways. They're the same people, and it was interesting to see the conversation go from week to week and show to show.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do, and a lot of topics that were racy and controversial and stuff like that. But I think it, it was just to kick back, have fun, relax, and that's how things turn about that way. Just a loosey goosey kind of thing. Obviously, a lot more racy topics than they should be. A lot of infamous topics, but a lot of good topics too. Some of the most controversial ones being, Master Legend's stance on homosexuality and stuff like that. And, we got a lot of good topics out, and we got a lot of expression. And, looking back on it, I think a lot of good things and a lot of bad things happened. But, it was
unusual. When I finally found out what the Tabasco fiasco was about, that was just like, wow.
But it was good, though, because, I think it gave a lot of people good insight on who our role models or who people that we were staunch supporters of. It gave a good it gave a good, glimpse into people. And I think it inspired a lot of people to have their own shows, have their own commentary, have their own blog. It was definitely conversation worthy, that's for sure.
Oh, yes, definitely. And I know it kind of drew everybody together in the community just having the show out there. You never knew who was going to call into the show and what the conversation was going to be about. You knew it was always going to go into an after dark. That was one thing that we did know, but it was just really interesting even the couple times that I got to call in, just the show would just take on a life of its own depending on who called in and such positive things that I saw coming out of it. It's one of the reasons that we picked this up and started doing this. After Silver Sentinel spent weeks telling me, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, before I finally gave in. I said, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And I enjoy it. I get panicked around 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon because, my show's in 2 hours. What am I going to do,
But, it's good. And Apocalypse Meow is a, bombastic and fantastic speaker and host, and she has a lot of ideas, and it was a good expression and outlet for her. And, she worked hard on the show. And, it was her show. So.
Oh, yeah. And of course, it shows when you put the time into the show. It does show the difference, and I really appreciated the show. It was enjoyable. Some of the more interesting people she had on when she had Barnes, I think it was one of the more interesting shows that she had there towards the end of it. It's always neat to hear somebody from across the water there. Just this past week when I got to interview Captain Australia, I have to say, of all the people that I have talked to in any context in the RLSH community, that is probably the most interesting person I have ever encountered. Captain Australia, he was just spot on. He floored me in Silver Sentinel. We were like, we couldn't think of anything to ask him. When he opened his mouth, everything just poured out, and it was just so spot on, so right. It was just like, wow.
That guy was awesome. You could tell he was the real deal. I mean, just by what he said. He was really good.
Oh, yeah. And Tree Song was another one. The minute he started speaking, I forgot everything. I had my list of stuff that I wanted to do and questions I wanted to ask him. Just the show became the Tree Song show, and it was just a phenomenal, just listening to him speak. I could go back and listen to that one over and over again. And I would say this show is probably, it's easy to say something in the top 5 right now, but this is one of the better shows, too, because I really, really enjoyed getting to catch up and filling some of the pieces in your story, ZETAMAN, that things that I wasn't privy to or whatever through the years. I kind of get to see some of it. You'll post the pictures of your events you're at and the more exciting things. Like I knew about the gas line and the taser incident, which I thought we'd have heard that thing all the way to Arkansas,
Yeah.
But,
well, we as a culture attract all kinds. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, it's definitely attracts the unusual, the bizarre. But it's the creativity, that attracts more than anything. Whether it's somebody like me that doing charity or somebody like I see the videos of Blue Blaze, and it's like I don't think that guy ever stands still, does he?
No. he does. He literally does not stand still. That's really cool.
He comes across to be like a really good guy, but he's like a kid on chocolate.
Well, he's toned down a lot since then. So I mean, he's toned down a lot. Yeah. So he's a lot more serious, and he's really working hard to make a really powerful difference where he's at. So I mean,
Oh yeah, I gathered that. He had a good hit, a mind inside his head, but boy, he was just like, wow, he was so pumped in that first video you put of him. It's like somebody duct taped this guy down.
But no,
he's on post in the parking lot and turning cartwheels and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, wow.
But he's a good guy. He's a good guy, and he really has a heart to help others. So which is cool.
I bet he's a lot of fun.
Well, he was from the he did try out for the Who Wants to Be a Superhero stuff too. So I mean,
I remember talking about that. I think I probably talked to him before all that came around, just in that context, but I'm not real certain on that.
So yeah, I guess technically, if you want to like
get that out of your little circle there, and I talk to him on a pretty regular basis, but you never know what he's going to say, and that's Tracy Hudson.
Tracy's a brilliant guy. He's very, very smart. I would like to say, anybody who's listening right now, who's concerned about Tracy has been 9 months sober. He's worked his job. He's working at his job. He's got a couple of promotions since then. He's doing very, very well. He's a really good guy. He's a brilliant guy. He, says whatever you are thinking, he says. And he says it without shame, which is awesome. He's a straight speaker, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Think we'll ever see Agent Noel come back, or is it going to be Tracy Hudson?
No, he's not. He's not coming back. He was in this for a while, but this is something that is not suited for him, or I don't know that this is something that he doesn't want to do, which is it's something he doesn't want. He doesn't want to be a part of the community. He's had his ups and downs with the community and relations and stuff like that, and everybody has their threshold, and this community as a whole, I don't know, maybe I'm just on the wrong side, but sometimes you get the odd comment here and there, or you get people who are just talking to you way too much, and you have unwanted attention, and you just don't want that attention anymore. And then you feel like a big dork. You feel like, oh, dude, only people relate to me based on Agent Null. They really don't want to know me. They want to know Agent Null, and I want to make friends, but I don't want to be, you don't want to be put on a pedestal. And he doesn't want to be put on a pedestal, which I totally understand. People should talk to him as Tracy Hudson, the normal guy who's a fantastic writer, who has brilliant work essays that he's written on about sports. That's amazing, and a lot of people don't know that either. He's a big sports aficionado, and he has some brilliant essays out there, but no one knows because they can't look past the Agent Null.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to realize there's some people who are friends with you, or who want to be friends with you simply because they saw you as a character on a webisode series, and they don't want to really, really know you. They want you just know Agent No, or Agent No, or No Tracy, the smart aleck who talks about punching children in the head with spiked gloves.
Definitely. So, looking to 2012 or 2011, what's in the plans for ZETAMAN for the next few months?
Like I said,
anything big coming up?
No. Honestly, no, not really. No, I'm just working on getting my nonprofit together. We got the March for Ladies thing coming up in April, and then hopefully I'm going to try to throw up a auction to raise money for a school that helps out homeless children. That's like down the road in June. So hopefully we'll get a venue together. We'll get some donations from local businesses to donate goods and supplies and stuff like that. We'll auction that off and raise money for the community transitional schools out here in Portland, Oregon. So hopefully that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, no, nothing big or anything really. Nothing spectacular. I think I'm kind of toning it down. So.
I can't imagine you toning it down because it's never going to be enough. Remember?
That's true. But I don't know. Maybe tone down. I don't know. Just keep my stuff off the internet and on a local level. Maybe that might be a better thing to say.
Well, I'm pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. You have anything you want to add, ZETAMAN? I mean, this has been a fascinating discussion. I really enjoyed it, and I want to thank you for agreeing to be a guest and for agreeing to move up your show time when we had to reschedule. So I want to thank everybody that's still here. Like I said, this is going to be a short after dark unless anybody else wants to throw something in to keep this going. I'm willing to stay here and keep it going if anybody else wants to add something.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had any advice to people that are just now getting into all this.
Your question is always the toughest because it's hard to say what advice can I give other than, I don't have any real advice other than, don't be stupid and burn down crack houses, or you're not tougher than the Bloods and Crips. I don't care how many weapons you have, you can't take on the Crips and the Bloods. Trust me.
Don't run around with ninja stars and swords.
Yeah, and grappling hooks are a no-no. You will die. There's a guy up in Seattle, I think a year or two ago, who actually dressed as a ninja, literally tried to swing across a building on a grappling hook, and he ended up falling off and impaling himself on a fence.
I remember that one.
Yeah, don't.
So often impaled himself on a fence a couple years ago.
I think the best advice I can give you, give anybody out there, really, really consider talking to your family and friends about it. That's the only thing I can do that, because you will find that you will get a lot more support talking to people as opposed to hiding what you're doing from other people. I mean, if you hide what you're doing, you're opening yourself up for a worse conversation than actually sitting down and say, hey, I want to do this. What can I do? Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your significant other. Explain to them what you want to do. And you'll find that you might get a lot more support than you think.
Yeah,
that's the best advice I can give you. Yeah, that's the best advice I can give.
I think the all the previous about the swords and the throwing stars and the grappling hooks and that could all be tied up, and write yourself a reality check. I joke about if I tried to do the Batman thing, jumping off the buildings on the criminals, it would be like somebody dropped a walrus on them. The flying walrus is not an effective crime-stopping technique.
But the reality of the situation is, as much as we like to glorify it that we're having a holy mission against terror and evil, the reality of the situation is that we're all just dudes in tights with swords and stuff like that. So, like Crossfire said, write yourself a reality check. Understand that your decisions affect your loved ones. Believe me, if you know anything about my life or anything else, my decisions and everything else affect my livelihood. And whatever decisions I make, do affect my family one way or the other. Whether I hide something, if I hide my identity from my family and I wind up dead in an alleyway somewhere with a gunshot bullet hole in my head, my family's going to want to know, why was I in the alley dressed as a superhero with a gunshot wound in my head? And they're going to question themselves. They're going to wonder where they went wrong, If I get arrested, then I have to explain why I'm in the slammer in tights and some dude is looking at me kind of funny, You have to, if anything, you need to have an emergency contact. So when you are in trouble, when you are in danger, when you are hurt, the police or the firefighters or a paramedic has someone to call when you're dead or when you're in trouble.
Definitely.
You need help. You need support. You need ideas. You need an emergency contact. You need someone to know where you're at when you're at somewhere. That's reality. That's nothing to do with comic books and not being a badass. It has nothing to do with not being Batman. It has everything to do with the fact that you want to stay alive. You want to live to fight another day. Hell, even Batman has Alfred. Alfred is his emergency contact. When something goes on, he's hurt or he's drugged up or he's inhaled the Scarecrow's gas. Who's he called? Alfred. Hey, I need help. He has a backup. He has support. His family is his butler, but he hasn't hidden anything from his butler. That's his family. Come on. Smart. Let your family know what you're doing. Let your family or significant other know what you're up to. So when you are in trouble, you have someone to call. Or if you're dead, the police have someone to call.
Definitely. I would add something I tell people that even Superman stopped to rescue kittens from trees. There's nothing too small that you can be doing out there. A lot of people say that charity work is no good or picking up trash is no good. But anything you do to make the world better in your wake is going to make the world better, and that's an improvement. If handing out a sandwich to somebody, feeds them for the day, that's somebody that's probably not going to steal, try and eat. If you're out there making a fool out of yourself and your spandex and all that at a charity event to help raise money for something, a worthy cause, that's helping that cause and making it better. It doesn't all have to be swooping out of the darkness and banging the criminals' heads together and leaving them duct taped to a telephone pole for the police. And if it was, that's not realistic anyway. They're going to get cut free, and you're going to get assault charges is what it's going to boil down to. In a case like that, you need to look at it realistically and see what you can do to make the world around you better, doing those little things, rescuing the kittens from the tree figuratively. So that's something to always be ready for.
I approach it like this. In order to be able to do the big stuff, you have to start small. You have to start. This is going to sound really lame and really macho, but if you're going to start a path of a warrior, you got to start at the beginning. You got to start small. You got to start with the small stuff before you can get and find out what the bigger stuff you can do. What I do now, or what I'm going to do now, took me like 4 or 5 years to get to this point. It started small. It started me walking out, picking up trash, handing money out to homeless people, looking for crime. I started out very, very small, very minute, and, eventually you work and work and work until you learn what you can do. But you have to start at the bottom. You can't go out there and be like, I'm the big gangbanger, and I'm going to take out the world. I'll start at the beginning. You got to start somewhere before you can move up.
Yeah, that was actually what another question I wanted to ask was, what would be a good trade in this to start with? Because I haven't even got to sewing my mask together yet, so I don't even know where to actually start with actions. What kind of things would be a good idea to start with?
A good idea to start with: walk around your neighborhood, walk around downtown, walk around the city. Walk around and make mental notes of what you see is wrong, and go from there. When I first started doing it, I was patrolling, I was driving around, just figuring out what I can be doing. Start small, walk around, just literally walk around your city, your town, or whatever, and see what you can do. And by walking around, you might learn some things. You might learn some things on the street. Just start talking to people. But you just walk around. You're not, again, like I said, you're not going to know what to do until you actually do stuff. So for you, you don't wear a mask. Walk around. Just put on a hoodie, put on a backpack. Just walk around. See what take a walk. See what's up. See what's going on. See what's going down. And then work your way from there.
I say I tell people there's a 3-step plan. You find something. You find a need. You find a way to meet that need, and then you meet the need.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Well, Zeta's got a good point there. It's about your actions and doing things, not just running around in a mask. The costume and all that will come. Heck, I'm still putting my stuff together, but we're still out there doing patrols and, whatever you can. There's little actions until it builds up.
Yeah. It's like learning how to juggle. You juggle 2 balls for a while, and then eventually you learn how to juggle 3, and then you learn how to juggle 3, and then you move on to 4, and then you move on to 5, and you move on to 6, and pretty soon you're juggling chainsaws and chairs, But you literally have to start at the beginning. You're not going to be, unless you have a good media guy, you're not going to be, you're not going to be awesome in the beginning. And it was hard when I first started. Even now, every now and then, Crossfire says, "Oh, ZETAMAN, we're great to have you," and stuff like that. When I first started, I was like the joke of the community. I was like, no, don't listen to that ZETAMAN guy. He's screwed up. I was like on the top. What was it? I was like on the top supervillain list, right next to Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein. Literally, there was a supervillain list, and I was like number 4 out of the community supervillain list. And just because I was handing stuff out to homeless people and stuff like that, and talking about weird stuff. So you start somewhere, and when I first started, I was like, yeah, don't listen to that guy. Yeah, the alternates suck. Yeah, this is horrible. Yeah, ZETAMAN's full of crap, and he doesn't, don't listen to him. He has unrealistic expectations. All he does is hand hamburgers out to homeless people and stuff like that. And it's. And unfortunately for me, that mentality's always stuck, so maybe that's why I feel unsatisfied with a lot of things, or I keep going, or keep trying to prove myself. But, when I started, and Crossfire can attest to this, it was like, this guy's a loser. I mean, I was kicked out of the Worldwide Heroes organization twice because of my looks. I mean, kind of weird. But yeah, you have to start somewhere, and you know, the simple patrols. You know, I guess maybe superheroes right in that respect, content that you went, but you're learning. You're learning, and when you learn, you become tailor-made for your own individual location. What you do may not be the same as what I do. What Shadowhair does in Cincinnati may not be the same as what Rugetsi does in California, because by walking around and stuff like that, you become tailor-made for your individual location. What I do is not the same as what Thanatos does. Thanatos has a completely different situation, but he has more of an idea of what goes on in Vancouver than he does in Portland or Seattle or, you know, California. What he does is not the same as what I do. You become tailor-made to where you're at. But that's because you step outside the door, you walk around, like Crossfire says, you find that need, you work on that need, and you meet that need.
Because, you know, the simplest way you look at that is like, okay, there's somebody there hungry. You found the need. I can buy them a cheeseburger. You found a way to meet that need, and then you buy a cheeseburger and give it to them. It's really that simple. In some cases, it's more complex. You know, it could be something like putting together a fundraiser to build public restrooms for the homeless, or to help a family that's got a sick family member, or whatever. Just it's a matter of putting a little elbow grease to the problem, like my grandpa used to say.
Well, and I mean, it was very long-winded. I guess the short version of this is, you know what? I mean, there's no magical solution to being a superhero. There's no formula. There's nothing you can emulate. For you to be a real-life superhero, or, you know, in my case, I say costume activist because superheroes are military folks and stuff like that. There's no magical formula. What I do, you can't do. You can imitate, and you can emulate, which was great. I'll throw out some great information on how I did things. But what you do is going to be only for your community, because you know what's going on in your city. I don't know what's going on where you're at. You only know what's going on. I can throw up tutorials. I can throw up information. I can throw up how I did things. But your experiences will be different than mine, guarantee you. My experience is not the same as Dark Garden. Crossfire's experience is not the same as Master Legend. Des Moss' experience is not the same as Thanatos, you know. We're all different. And it's going to be that way. There's not going to be a magic formula for you. And I'm sorry. But, you know, I really wish there was, like, a magical formula. Like, if we did these things, then that makes us awesome where we're at. And it's not going to be the case.
I would say also just be prepared for the negative, because it's going to come. Anytime you're out there trying to do something different, you're going to have people that are going to laugh at you, they're going to make fun of you, and people are going to attack you, and you're trying to find some way to tear you apart, and just don't let that, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm in a college town, so I'm almost anticipating a whole lot of negative from this.
Consider this point. When it comes to wearing a mask, now, you attract attention wearing a mask. No one's going to recognize you. No one's like, okay, I don't wear a mask. In the 4+ years I've been doing this, I have gone downtown Portland. I have just been everywhere without my mask on, grocery stores, whatever. I have never been recognized once outside of my ZETAMAN outfit. The moment I put on that Z, now I'm recognized. But outside of it, walking around in public, everywhere I've gone, no one recognizes me. Because they're not looking for some dude with, well, I don't have a goatee anymore. They're not looking for some dude in a goatee. They're looking for some guy with a big Z on his chest. So consider when you're wearing a mask, consider urban camouflage. Consider the fact that people are going to be looking for a person in a mask. People are not looking for someone who looks like a normal person. And if you research ninjas look like everybody else. They don't look like ninjas. They don't dress in black and run around everywhere. They look like the street musician. They look like the performer. They look like someone you would not recognize. So consider that also the aspect, too, when putting together your outfit. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to stand out? Are you really trying to be out there and look like a symbol? or if you just kind of blend in, if you kind of look chill. Like, I have 2 different outfits. I have a SWAT armor that I wear. People draw attention to me. There's some dude wearing SWAT armor. But then I have this other, I have, when I'm going out and helping people on the streets and stuff like that, my outfit's more muted. My outfit doesn't stand out attention. I have never been recognized in my regular ZETAMAN outfit either, unless, someone knows exactly what they're looking at. Kind of like this urban camouflage kind of thing. You kind of look like everybody else. No one's going to really pay attention until you actually do something, Well, consider those points before putting together your outfit. What is your intention? And when you do wear a mask, you do draw a lot of attention, and a lot of people do get overly aggressive when they cannot see your mouth or your eyes.
Well, it's funny. It's actually drawing it up in the mouth and the eyes is all you can see, but I see what you mean.
Well, yeah, no, because that's the other part too. You need, when you are in a situation, when you're dealing with someone, is a situation, and how you look or what your mannerisms are, you can control a situation that way. In a case in point, I was downtown. 2 people were fighting. They were talking to them, calm them down, but my demeanor wasn't overly aggressive. It was reassuring. It was calming. It reassured them that they're not under attack, that they don't have to be defensive. And because they don't feel like they're defensive, they let their guard down. They're easy to talk to. I patrol with people with full-on masks with the intention of scare people. Always, all the time, you walk around downtown or you're on patrol downtown, someone sees you in a scary mask and they instantly become agitated. Now you've created a crisis situation based on being there. It had nothing to do with them doing anything. You have agitated people around you based on your looks. So now you've created the situation, and now you have to deal with it because you were simply there. I may not necessarily agitate the normal person, but I'm not there to agitate people. I don't want to agitate homeless people. If I'm on the street and I pass by some gangbangers, I'm not going to agitate them. That means I can safely watch what they're doing and report what they're doing, and they don't pay attention to me. They ignore me. I'm invisible to them. It's not because I'm not wearing a mask. I'm right there. They don't notice me. I'm noticing them. I'm watching them. This is why we have undercover police officers. Undercover police officers are not wearing masks. They look like everybody else. Undercover police cops. You see cars walking around. You know that the police cars after a while, after looking at them, but you don't notice them initially. They're hiding in plain sight. If you really want to be mysterious, hide in plain sight. The most famous mysterious people were the ragmen up in Massachusetts, in Salem. Just like homeless people, they would sit and sleep on the streets until someone went to attack them, and they popped up and kicked the butts, because they were dressed like homeless people, urban camouflage. So, yeah, consider those points before putting together your outfit. What are your intentions? If you're a superhero and you're built like a freaking truck, you know what? He wears all red. I'm still not going to mess with him because he has tons of muscles, and I'm not going to mess with the dude. The dude has a baton and muscles and built like a Mack truck. I'm not messing with him. But he's friendly enough that you see him in red, you're going to be like, hey, it's a superhero, He's diffused the situation with his comical look. But at the same time, you're still not going to mess with him because he has, muscles, But he's easy enough to approach that you don't feel like he's going to go and, attack you for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So consider those points, too. You don't have to look like a Goomba. You don't have to look like a dork. You don't have to wear your underwear on the outside. But at the same time, you don't have to look like you are going to a bondage, fetish shop either. Unless that's what you want, and you just want to fight people, you want to agitate people, you want to make people nervous, and that might be your thing, too. You maybe want to look like you are going to there and you mean business. And you may want to put people on the defensive, and you may want to create that situation. But either way, you will create a situation based on how you look. And I'm not being prejudiced whatsoever. Seen it many, many times. I've hanged out with people who are dressed like, ninjas. Heck, I had one teammate who looked like the Zodiac Killer. We're all black, wore a black hood over his face. Every time downtown, people want to pick fights with him. You're creating a situation. Now they're picking fights with you, and, not that I mean, the thought behind it is, well, they're criminals anyway, so I'm just bringing that criminal nature out of them. But that's like a false argument. I don't think that's a true argument. You know?
No, it's
you
not.
Don't want to create, you don't want to purposely create bad situations for entrapment, but you want to, you know.
It's not just the bad guys either they're affecting with their masks. I mean, there was a situation a few months ago that was a good example. There was a candlelight vigil for a murdered girl, I believe, out in San Diego or out in California. Urban Avenger and Mr. Extreme showed up to it. And, you know, they're good guys, and they didn't meet any other intention except to show up and pay respect to this girl. But one's in a gas mask, and the other one's in another wild outfit, and it really upset the mourners there. And they called the cops, and Avenger, Mr. Extreme had to leave the area, even though they meant nothing by it.
Well, you can pay her respects, but have some respect for where you're at too. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to criticize them. I think Urban Avenger and Mr. Extreme are great guys. A little decorum in that situation, especially with a funeral, would have been advisable. Maybe they might have paid their respects a better way, other than to show up and saying, "Hey guys, we're wearing capes and we're here. We're going to avenge your loved one." I mean, that's kind of
it's exactly. I mean, no one to wear your stuff. I mean, it's okay to show up in civilian clothing and keep your eye out. I mean,
definitely.
So a little decorum on certain areas too. I mean, pay some respect to where you're at a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to go to a funeral dressed as ZETAMAN. I'll go as myself. You know, it's something I feel strongly about. We had a case like 5 or 6 years ago. 2 young girls were murdered by a guy. He ended up hiding the body, burying one under cement, another one in a bag in the shed. And they had this huge, thing outside the place where you donate flowers and stuff like that. You know, I went there, regular clothes, and paid my respects and put flowers on it and everything else. I'm not going to go there as ZETAMAN and say, "Hey, I'm here and I'm going to avenge your death." I mean, that's such a arrogant move to do, and it's so sad. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, like you say, the costume it's not about you. It's about your message, and you don't need to send your message out in the middle of a funeral or anything like that. The center of the attention is for the family, not for you.
Yeah, and you just be very, very careful. I mean, you know, it's a hard judgment call to make. I mean, I'm sure they learned their lesson, and you know what I mean. But I don't know. Just be careful how you word things in the public. Understand too, what you're doing is kind of extreme, and understand that other people are going to look at you like weirdos, and don't be like, "Why are you looking at me like a weirdo?" Little thought behind it. They're going to look at you like a weirdo. They're going to look at you like a freak. They're going to look at you like the most bizarre thing since undead Elvis singing Johnny Cash. So just tone it down a little bit. There's times to flash the cape, and there's times not to flash the cape, and it's going to take a little wisdom and a little thought to figure that out. But you guys will figure it out. You'll figure it out by walking around. You'll figure it out just by common sense. Use some common sense.
Yep.
Oh, and and one thing I do want to impress upon new people too: do not slam police officers. I don't care if you know Krav Maga. I don't care if you're ex-military. I don't care who you are. You start slamming police officers, and you're in for a world of hurt. Understand that they have guns, and you don't. Understand they will shoot you without hesitation. Little respect to the police officers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just keep yourself. Don't be like, "Oh, police officer are pigs" and stuff like that. Whatever your opinion of police officers, the moment you put on that spandex and that cape, yes sir, no ma'am. Police officers are the greatest thing since sliced bread. You are endangering your life. There's a case with Shadowhair. Talked about how he trained elite police officers. He had his own force. And you know what the police officers did? The police department in Cincinnati? Went on Wikipedia and outed him. Because he was talking trash, how he trained the police officers, how he was more effective than police officers, how the commissioner has a Shadowhair signal. So the police were like, "You know what? Screw you, kid. We're going to out you." And they outed him. And they will do that, Whether it's right or wrong, it's indifferent. You know, you step on the toes of the police, they will crush you. They will find you and they will crush you. You know, whether or not you believe in the police officers or not, respect the fact that they can harm you more than a criminal. They have a license for a gun. You don't. You know, all they have to do is fill out paperwork and go on severance for knocking you down. And what's going to happen when the police report comes out? Police shoot mysterious guy in gas mask. And the public will totally be like, yeah, good job shooting down that vigilante. The public will not back you for being shot down, you know? They'll be like, he's a dangerous vigilante, dressed in a gas mask or a bulletproof vest, dressed like he's going to kill someone.
The video of you getting shot, taken from the police dash cam, will get more hits on YouTube than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, you are in a corner. So stepping on the toes of the police is not the wisest thing for an RLSH to do. Now, some people will say, what's about Master Legend? Master Legend does not live in the greatest town in the entire world. Where he lives is slum. But what he does is tailor-made for his location. But as a general rule, until you know what's going on, don't step on the badge. Just don't. Big mistake. Don't be in public and say, hey, I think police officers are pigs. You are in for a world of hurt, especially if you say that on TV or in the venue of a news reporter or anything else. Just calm your stuff down just a little bit. Know where you're at. Say wise things. Don't smart off to someone with a gun. That's for sure.
Definitely. I would say another thing I would throw in there. This is just me, and you may or may not agree. Courtesy. Yes, sir. No, sir. Be polite. You know. Treat everybody like they're the most important person in the world when you're talking to them. Show them that respect. Show them that courtesy. Be soft-spoken. Like Theodore Roosevelt said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." Don't wave the big stick around. Use that soft voice, and it's always been my experience that when you show that respect, that you get the respect back. You talked about. They said that it was okay to escalate things because you're just bringing out somebody's criminal tendencies. I used to work in a prison, and one of the things that I learned when I was there is that when you think of them as filthy criminals, you have one attitude, but when you think of them as people that made a mistake, and I shared that with the other guy one night that was in there. He said, you don't think I'm nothing but a filthy, nasty inmate or something to that effect. I said, no. I said, I think you're a person that made a mistake. And he kind of stopped looking at me and said, really? I said, what makes you a good inmate or a bad inmate or a good person or a bad person is based on what you think the mistake is. And I said, if you think the mistake was getting caught, well, you're going to be here a while. If you think the mistake was what you got caught doing, then you're on the road to recovering. And it was just a few months later that I ran into that same inmate on the street. I wasn't working there anymore. And I was at a restaurant. He saw me eating there. He got out of line, came over and made sure it was me. And he said, I want to introduce you to somebody. And he went and got his wife and brought her over. He said, this is the guy that changed my life. And he said, this is the guy that helped me realize what I was doing wrong and got my head on straight. And said, this is the reason he said, what you told me that night is the reason I was able to get parole. And he said, I met her, I've gotten married, I've got a job, I'm getting my life straight. And it's all because I realized that I made a mistake, and it was the mistake wasn't getting caught. The mistake was what I did that caused the accident, that caused the person to get hurt or whatever, And that little bit of respect, that little bit of empathy, go a long way. Whether you're dealing with somebody that's wanting to pick a fight in a bar, whether you're dealing with somebody that wants to they're hostile because you're out there in a mask or whatever. Being soft-spoken and being respectful can diffuse all of that. I think it'll go a long way.
You don't want to escalate things. You want to diffuse. You want to have a better resolve than full escalation. Because then you have to solve that problem. And I don't know about anybody else, but I don't like getting punched in the face. I don't think anybody else wants to get punched in the face. If you're able to solve a situation without getting punched in the face, then you have a one-up. If you're,
like gold star on your paperwork that day.
Yeah, like they teach in Crossfire, if you are able to go home that night, then you have a good, you won. So if you're able to go home that night, you won. And if you're able to go home that night and the other person is able to go that one night and not spend the night in the jail, but actually listen to you and reason and realize, this is not correct for me either. Not have you taught him a life lesson, but, you might be both going home and, neither one of you have to walk around with broken jaws or teeth or whatnot. So.
And as a new guy, you got to remember that even though you're seeing everyone run around with body armor on and big knuckled gloves and tasers and every other whatever, the violence is a last resort, absolute last. I mean, that stuff's nice and it's real pretty, but your brain is first, and your skills at talking to people are first.
Oh no, I agree. Believe me, I don't even like yelling at people.
Me neither.
Yeah. I mean, what I carry is because I want to go home at the end of the night. If I'm pinned down to the ground and I can't raise a fist or punch a guy or anything else, then, and that backup just in case it's for my self-defense only. It's never to attack anybody, I should not have a situation where I'm sitting there hurting people with weapons. That's not correct. I mean, I have stuff on me for my own personal defense because I realize, regardless of how well I can talk or not talk or anything else, I might be in a situation where I could really get hurt and I want to go home. So I'm realistic enough to know that I can get hurt on the street. So.
Oh, definitely. There's times when a soft word can turn away all the anger. There's other times when you just have to pop the electricity in that stun gun and get their attention. And it works every time, to be honest. I hear that old zap noise. It's like, wait a minute. But once you de-escalate things, open that soft voice.
Yeah, I mean, but really, I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want to, I don't want the snot kicked out of me. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to go home that night. And I'm going to make sure I'm going to be able to file that police report, and I don't want to get pinned down. So, what I take in what the martial arts I study and stuff like that, I am not going, I'm not going to throw the first punch. I'm not going to harass people. I'm not going to openly look for fights. But I'm not going to go down either. That's for sure. Not without a decent fight anyway. My dad, when I was...
Has anybody ever put together a how-to on that ZETAMAN?
What? How to go home?
How to become an RLSH?
We've been floating around stuff like that, and it's one of those things you can't tell one way or the other. Like I said, everything's so tailor-made that we can't put together criteria because we don't live where in our locations. I don't live where you live, so I can't tell you whether or not you are RLSH one or the other, But a tutorial
have some principles or something like that you need to I'd have to look his up, but he has those 7 principles that you should have in your life for like honor and stuff like that, and maybe a couple of other things he's got in there. And I've seen some stuff, and I know Night Owl was putting together a guide at one time. I don't know if that's ever finished out or not, but
he's got a good website.
We're working on updates.
You know what? What would be the easiest way to do? Join a martial arts studio, and whatever principles they have, apply that to your career. Chances are, if you're going to a good place and they're teaching you good discipline, stuff like that, you can apply it to your life. Or if you want, join a church and use their principles to guide that in your methodology and how you do things too. I mean, there's no RLSH standard or anything else, and it would be presumptuous for any of us to create a standard for other people to follow. But if you join a martial arts studio or you're active in a church or something, or even if you're studying to become a police officer or whatever, those principles will more than likely be a lot more effective in your career than, me telling you, don't do drugs or say no, do this or do that, I'd rather my
So you have to have some kind of personal ethic or code of conduct, because if you don't, you're just running out there and just causing chaos. So, really, you got to police yourself.
Yeah, and like I said, a good martial arts studio will teach you how to police yourself better. They'll teach you discipline. Or, you know what I mean? They'll teach you that honor, respect, or something like that, or, give you a good outlook in life, It's good to do that.
Definitely. So, Sonic Eagle, you have been quiet over here. You're still online with us. You got
I'm here.
You got any questions for ZETAMAN before we wrap this up?
A few weeks ago when I was having to go up to because something my older cousin did that got him in trouble with the law, I spotted one of the kids who I used to get in a fight with, he would bully me and all. I'd end up getting in fights with him in school.
Yep.
Apparently, he's actually in jail now for robbing a bank. I was just wondering if you or anybody else that's on right now has had something similar happen to them. They've, heard of a person they knew in school or back when they were younger that's ended up in jail that they've actually had altercations with.
I don't know about anybody else. Me personally, I moved around a lot, so I don't remember my childhood friends, honestly. I've lived in so many different places that I don't remember. So I don't know.
Yes, we've had friends back home that got hooked on meth, and we would try and get them off, and they'd be clean for a while. Then they'd go back, and we had one who got busted for making it, and he's went away for a very long time.
The best way, like I said, with my friend Tracy Hudson, he had a serious drug addiction for a while, and it was very, very hard to talk to him about that. Part of it is I didn't want to report him because, I'd be like a narc. I'd be losing my friend. But, it was a really hard moral dilemma, and, he hid it a lot, too, so I had no proof. And I couldn't walk around and be like, oh, Tracy, I know you're doing drugs, and then he would deny it. I had no proof. I had no evidence. But I knew he was. And, the only thing to do was be there for a friend and call him a lot, and, that's the best I could do. And, he ended up being sober. That was a good...
That's good.
In this particular situation, it was ideal for me to be a friend. Now, if it was another friend doing the same thing, I think depending on the situation, I would have to make the judgment call whether or not to report. Like, we had a sister-in-law that was abusing their niece. Went to the authorities without hesitation because of child abuse, It was a judgment call I had to make. It was a different situation, someone who needed help, and it was more help than, they needed to be reported. And I had to report a family member to Child Protective Services, and that was very, very hard. So you have to make a judgment call depending on the situation. It's not a black and white situation. You can apply black and white morals to certain things, but all situations are always going to be different. There's too many variables. There's too many different things that you have to consider before doing something.
Yeah, if they're just hurting themselves, try and help them. They have to make the choice to get the better. But if they start hurting other people, like the friend we had with his meth production, or ZETAMAN said with the child being involved, then you got to get involved.
Oh yeah.
Guys, we've got about 7 minutes, and this is going to end on us. So, ZETAMAN, this has been very awesome. It's been a couple of weeks since we've gone into an after show, and you have managed to fill it with some very good pearls of wisdom here from your experience. So I want to thank you for coming on and invite you again. Of course, come back again. We've got more shows coming up, and you're always welcome to come be part of this and such like this. So thank you for being here, and thanks for Midnight Detective and Gray Man and Sonic Eagle and gosh, I cannot remember your name. This guy.
Versus, yeah.
Yeah, this starts with a V.
Yeah, Versus.
Well, yeah, thank you all for being here, for taking the time to be part of the show. I said it's going to wrap up here in just a couple of minutes, and we'll be back next week. We've got we talk about Martin Luther King Jr. As we look at real-life superheroes, I think we should look at some of the people that had made a difference, and he definitely is a person that impacted the world with his message. We may even play some clips from the "I Had Got a Dream" speech, because that's just such a powerful thing. And any of us that are out here doing this kind of thing, whether it's hero support, whether it's charity, whether it's crime fighting, patrolling, whatever, should look at, I think that "I Have a Dream" speech is talking about people getting along, people judging people for their actions, not for their sins or whatever. I think it's a powerful thing that we need to have in our arsenal. So we'll be looking at him and celebrate his birthday, because next week is Martin Luther King's birthday celebration. And y'all are all welcome to call back in. Thank everybody for being here. We got about 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. ZETAMAN, you want to add anything to what we had tonight?
No, I think I've been too long-winded, but yeah. But thank you very much for having me on the show. It was a pleasure, and I listen to your show, and this is really, really awesome, and I applaud you very much for doing this.
I enjoy, just getting to sit back and listen to you guys to share your stuff. I'm still trying to get Thanatos in here. I hate that by the time I get him in here, it'll be a half-hour show. But it would be also, if we could ever get him in here, we may just have to have somebody else pick up the second half of the show or something. But again, thank you for being here, ZETAMAN, and everybody else that's called in, and everybody that was in the chat room. We've had a phenomenal turnout this afternoon, and I'm going to get some rest. I've got to work tonight. Thank you all for calling in and making this show great, and we will see you next week, same cross time, same cross channel for Superhero Academy, and y'all have a great day.
You too. Take care, guys.
Later. Now, let's go. Bye.
All right.